right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. On the political spotlight, we'll delve into issues that actually affect Nigeria's political landscape. We look at all the political trajectory, we look at the conspiracy theories, we try to have a better comprehension of these political issues and how they will actually affect Nigeria's political space. For example, you do know that ever since the 2023 elections, a lot of things have been happening within Nigeria's polity. From the onset, however, when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu told us that fuel subsidy is gone, well, that actually reshaped, distorted the Nigerian economic pattern. Since then, the economy has been trying to put itself in context and modify itself to a couple of political and economic implementations of this administration. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has told us that his economic policies are long-term, but a lot of Nigerians feel that the policies are only being beneficial to or towards the rich, that is the elite, but those at the grassroots are being ignored. In the long run, though, what was the essence of removing fuel subsidy if it only benefits those who were at the higher echelon, and those bearing the consequences and feeling the brunt of that removal are the very poor people that you actually thought fuel subsidy was going to help? Now, in subsequent times, especially in the past 2 years, on several public broadcasts, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu tells us to be patient with him, and he understands the pains that Nigerians are going through. However, a lot of political developments have unfolded. I'm going to start off with this very unfortunate situation that evolved today. I'm sure you recall 2 days ago, there was a report that former President Muhammadu Buhari and also Abdul Salami, two former presidents or administrators, were actually critically ill and were in the London hospital. Unfortunately, we heard this evening, precisely by past 4, Garuba Shehu, the former spokesperson, confirming that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, or rather former President Muhammadu Buhari, has passed on. Not President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in Jesus' name. Former President Muhammadu Buhari has passed on. Basically, the family announced this, the passing of the former president, and obviously it was in a clinic in London. Now, you'll recall during the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari, for the first 7 months, the president was in the hospital, taking treatment. On several occasions, he actually traveled out of the country, specifically on days when he was on leave, on days when he was taking, a Sabbath. He actually went abroad to get medical help. Now, Nigerians were questioning up till now if our presidential elites or the political bureaucrats always travel out of the country for medical treatment. Are they telling us that our medical sector, our health sector, will never ever be in pari passu with its international counterpart, where every time our leaders always travel out of the country for healthcare checkup and utilize their facilities, so they don't see the importance of enabling and obviously implementing all of these structures and facilities in our healthcare system, empowering our nurses and doctors to do better so we can trust the system, especially our healthcare system. One of such an experience, if you recall, during the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari was during COVID-19, when they couldn't travel out of the country for their usual checkup. It affected quite a lot of them within the former president's cabinet. I remember his chief of staff passed on due to COVID. You also heard about the fact that in Abuja, Aso Rock, the clinic there is nothing to write home about. Despite all the monies put into that facility, they are still lacking. In fact, there was a time we heard the former president's wife, First Lady Aisha Buhari, tell us that there was no even Panadol, right, in Aso Rock healthcare facility. It's quite a disturbing scenario. The big question Nigerians are asking is that how would we remember former President Muhammadu Buhari? It is not right to speak ill of the dead, but we cannot put aside the fact that Nigerians went through a lot during the previous administration. Let's go back in time. In 2015, there were quite a number of issues that the former President Muhammadu Buhari told us he was going to work on. One of them was to recapitalize, rehabilitate, resuscitate our economy. Secondly, he promised us absolute security, routing out Boko Haram and clearing it up. That was the second thing he promised us. And obviously, the third thing he also made mention of the fact was he was going to try as much as possible to engage, especially with our international counterparts, in securing investment opportunities in Nigeria. Unfortunately, the tripod of former President Muhammadu Buhari, that was the core of his campaign, it seemed he failed. Insecurity was the eye of the day. Remember the NSAS protests in 2020? That was a galvanizing and a pivotal moment in the entire history of Nigeria. And let me tell you that that was the time the Nigerian youth woke up. How did former President Muhammadu Buhari handle that period? Well, these are the things that we should consider as leaders in the polity. How will history judge you? Now, for a couple of persons who had this conspiracy theory circulating at the time that former President Muhammadu Buhari was cloned and it was a different personality that was occupying the Aso Rock, a couple of them are already saying that this person who passed on is not Buhari, but it's a clone. Whichever way you want to think about it, a lot of persons who have seen the president, former president, in real life, don't think he is a clone, and they don't think anybody, especially those who are very good with biology, have ever been able to try it, cloning somebody to the extent that the person looks real when the person is not a robot. Well, as it stands now, the former president has passed on, and we do hope that his soul rests in peace in the bosom of Allah. That is basically what the situation is. Right now, you can join us virtually on YouTube at VOP 903 FM. We're currently streaming live, and the frequency is 90.3 FM. My name is Esther Wachuku. I'm officially welcoming you to the political spotlight. So now that former President Muhammadu Buhari has passed on, let's move on to what the political conspiracy would be. The CPC faction, Buhari was like a Tinubu of the ACN. Now, Buhari was the elder statesman. He was the political glue for that faction. Before he passed on, we saw a lot of them already, decamping, either joining the ADC. A lot of them who have not joined the ADC are in talks. Some are waiting to see how the ADC would form for them to leave. A large number of the northern elites or oligarchs are not happy with the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Why? We do not know. But the big question is, does it mean that it is only the North that will always need to have power? What kind of agreement was had that the Northerners, specifically the CPC faction, are not happy with? Is it access to the president? Do they want to be close to him? Are there some verbal contracts that we did not know pre to the elections that maybe President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has reneged on? Or is it the fact that he has cut them out from certain privileges, which was to the detriment of Nigerians? Or the president decided to get closer to his own people, give contracts to his own people, sideline them or put them aside? We do not know exactly what is going on, but there's going to be a major shift within the CPC. There is an unwritten verbal agreement between the ACN and the CPC before the merge to become the APC. Now, give the North 2 years, which obviously elapsed in 2023, and in return, I or you will support me. That is, you will support me, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. During the 8 years of Buhari's administration, the Southwest especially, despite all that transpired during the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari, stayed quiet. They supported him because that was the agreement. And now, why is that friction upcoming? What would we experience within this ADC now? Will the CPC faction dissolve? Because you have one connecting glue. He was the elder statesman within that party. He had the kind of followership that Peterobi has with the obedience. So what happens now? That's a very big question. Now, considering the ADC, do we think while they're trying to decide on who will be the presidential candidate, the obedience are saying it is Peterobi or nothing? Others believe that Peterobi should be a vice to Atiku Abubakar. But others say, why can't Atiku Abubakar be an elder statesman? Others believe that an agreement will be signed very soon. There is a strong possibility that Peterobi will be the presidential candidate of the ADC. Who will now be the vice? Or what will happen with whatever agreement they come to? Now they're supposed to sign an agreement that each of them will support anyone who emerges as a candidate from the primaries. So right now, at this very particular moment, Nigerians are in the box of whom do you want and how do you want your future in the political scene to be decided? Do you still want the same set of persons to decide your future? Or if indeed eventually somehow due to some calculations in certain in the political arithmetic that the ADC decides to go for what's his name, Atiku Abubakar, will that give the supporters of others the vigor to vote and continue? Some of them believe that if Peterobi decides to be a vice, that they will definitely not vote for him, or they'll rather let President Bola Ahmed Tinubu continue in his second term. Okay, we have quite a lot to look into, but I want us to take a very good listen to this. It is vital that we have context. And then after that, I will call Barrister Eze Eluche. He is going to be my analyst this evening. He'll be joining us virtually. And when we take into consideration the conversation we want to have now, that will be posing some questions on what this trajectory means, specifically within Nigeria's political climate. Let's take a brief listen to this.
Done presidency for 8 years. For me, sacrosanct. It's something that cannot be jeopardized. It's something that must be abided by. And so for any serious opposition that wants to challenge the incumbent President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, who is from the South, that such a party, it will be in its own interest to field a Southern candidate. And since an aspirant like Peterobi has come out to say clearly and in bold relief that I will run for just one term because I also respect zoning. And he didn't just say it, he made a proposition to the coalition he's just joined, the ADC, in that respect. And he has also granted an interview where he was seen in colors, saying, I will run for only one term. And one term is enough for me to reposition the country. I may not achieve everything I want to achieve, but I'm willing to sacrifice my privilege and right in the interest of national unity, because I believe that by 2031, the presidency should be returning to the North. That was quite thoughtful. That was quite ingenious of him. That was quite patriotic, if you ask me, to have stated this clearly. Meaning, I believe I will run, but I'm not unaware of the peculiarity of the power dynamics in Nigeria. So I'm not going to live in denial of that. So I'm stating it often that I want to run, but I will run for only one time if given the opportunity. So I want to believe that the ADC, if they are serious about taking power from the president, must. If this story is, I don't know how true this story is, but this is something for them to pick up and read. And this, for me, what you see on the front page of the pilot, somehow is in sync with public perception, public opinion, and the expectation from this party, particularly as it concerns zoning of the presidency. Now, as for Obi as a candidate, Obi again has thrust himself ahead of others, going to the 2027 race by his principal stance on a number of issues. You see, I've had reasons on this program to criticize Obi severally for not being very clear on alternatives he's offering to the incumbent administration. But this last interview over the weekend, which in my consideration was one of his best ever, has lightened up the mood in this country, has sort of restored some level of hope, because in that interview, he was able to go a notch higher in providing some level of philosophical clarity as to how and when, how he intends to tackle Nigeria's myriad of existential problems. Apart from addressing the basic issues of integrity, character, in governance, and frugal management of resources, there was something remarkable about his interview on two fronts. He stand on the role of petroleum subsidy, which have insisted that if anybody wants to challenge Tinubu, you must come with a clear-cut alternative to what he has done. For the first time, I think it will be true, like I've always said, that 2 years enough for both those in power and those in the opposition to have taken time to reflect on the effect of subsidy removal and come up with a change of position. He seems to have adopted that because, for the first time, Obi said he would first tackle the corruption associated with subsidy. to ascertain what exactly Nigeria is paying for in subsidy before taking the next step. This is like a strong shift from his orthodoxy, or the position of orthodoxy of it has to go because subsidy in itself is bad. I was pleasantly surprised, and it's a welcome development because we need alternatives in the polity. I'm speaking about this morning because it's an alternative is offered now.
Yes.
So look, why not look at the corruption, and then going forward, let us now know what is it that we are really paying for, and probably if it does not hurt the system, then we can continue. Something like that. I expect him in the coming days to also sharpen this, direction he's taking now, sharpen it, and make it a policy statement. Now, there's something remarkable you also talked about. Borrowing. That is going to borrow, but to invest in businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, you should have, definitely I would have been excited. I've always said that government has to do business. And that if government must borrow, it has to be to do business. And when they asked him, what kind of business will he invest in, he said agricultural production across the value chains. Because he believes that agriculture will yield for Nigeria much more than oil is doing. So it means he himself is considering the fact that government must have a role to play in the means of production. These are the kind of alternatives we want to see. So we can have decent conversations here going forward. And let me tell you, what this man has done is going to put pressure on the incumbent administration to also look at their own policy, their own stand, and begin to adjust accordingly. And that is the beauty of democracy. So at the end of the day, we have qualitative discourse in the polity. It begins to yield results for the people. That's what democracy is all about.
Absolutely.
And so he has risen up to the challenge of being the true voice of opposition, something we've been yearning for since 2023.
So what do you make to say? What do you say to people?
To him, he's not left the Labour Party. You see, this is like a special arrangement. He said he's still a member of the Labour Party. He made it clear. But this ADC is like a coming together of people from all across political parties who have joined ADC fully for the purpose of teaming up to challenge incumbents. Because the last experience was that because the position was splintered along three major axes, it was easy for the president to have taken the day after 8 years of underperformance by the APC. So maybe they're trying to come together to see if they can find a common ground. But I'm sure he's holding on to his Labour Party because if for any reason a common ground is not found, he's going to run along with his own party and see if he can make the necessary impact. So
he's not trying to eat his cake and have it by doing that?
No, I think he's just being strategic, really, at this stage. I think there's nothing wrong with what he's done yet. Of course, you know me. I wouldn't say it the way it is not. I think for now, it is still, they're trying to form an alliance. There's nothing wrong with an alliance in a democracy. Most multi-party democracies usually come through an alliance to upstage democratically, though, those that are in government. There's nothing wrong. Macron, for example, is a product of a broad-based alliance. President.
All right, there you heard him. He was actually given a perception or permutation as to what it takes now that Peterobi has put his hat in the race. Now, the big thing or the big deal here about this entire situation is the fact that consultations are ongoing amongst the political elite, specifically the leadership of the ADC. There are considerations that Peterobi might be the presidential candidate chosen. That is basically what is right. But then the idea is to go through primaries. Now, you also know that Julius Abure met with Nyesom Wike in Abuja today. Nigerians went agog, excuse me. So this is basically what we have been talking about. But is it possible that the fact that individuals who belong to different political parties doesn't mean that they cannot have conversations or meet up anywhere? Well, a lot of Nigerians feel that this could be the very reason why Julius Abure has been the issue or the bone of contention within the Labour Party, where the impending matters have refused to have been resolved, and Peterobi, the Nanadi Usman Committee, or literally the Labour Party has been fractured. As it stands now, a lot of people feel that Labour Party is as done as good, dead actually. Aki Oshuntokun, during the particular chat with a Monitor television program, as you know him, the campaign director general of the Obedient Movement in 2023, literally made that statement that the Labour Party is good as done. So what does this mean now that we saw Julius Abure along with Nyesom Wike, knowing full well that Nyesom Wike on two different occasions in a public outing has mentioned Peterobi and made derogatory comments concerning him? Obviously, he has gotten the attention of the ruling party, or has always gotten the attention of the ruling party. So now we know that Julius Abure meeting Nyesom Wike amidst the internal crisis the Labour Party is having, when there are speculations speculations and alleged accusations that it is the current APC and some certain persons within the APC causing the imbroglio within the Labour Party. So what exactly does this outlook mean, this disposition of Julius Abure meeting Nyesom Wike? How does it portray certain things that Julius Abure is an APC plant within the Labour Party to ensure that the party remains destabilized and possibly render Peterobi partiless? You know that a national executive meeting is meant to be held by the Julius Abure faction to expel Peterobi because he has actually indicated that he is part of the coalition, even though he hasn't officially registered. The big question is this: Nigerians are looking for a leader that will represent their interests in every facet in Nigeria's polity. That's one. Number two, they feel that Peterobi represents that. Not that he is a saint, not that he is the person who will rescue them particularly completely, but amongst all, they feel he is better. Third, they also feel that it is a turn of the Southeast. Why has the Southeast been relegated for so long? If it is a southern time for the southern presidency, who says that the Southeast cannot put his hats in the race? Well, in the whole of this situation, political tension has become rife. If you had followed the local government elections in Lagos State, there was voter apathy, and there was a situation where certain persons were not allowed to cast their votes, specifically those who do not belong to either the APC or even the PDP. In some local governments, actually, other political parties were not represented on the ballot box. In other words, you were boxed to either vote for the APC or the PDP. It's quite an unfortunate scenario. Now, on social media, the politician supporters, specifically of the ruling party, were happy with this development, and they say that this is basically how the 2027 elections will be. Anybody who doesn't come and vote for the APC or for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be disenfranchised, to be asked to go home, or whatever it is you see at the polling unit is what you will take. Now, what happens to Nigeria's democracy? Has our politics and our democracy become a regional system of government where if you do not pander to a certain ethnic group, or if you do not pander in support of a political party, then you would definitely be disenfranchised? What does this actually stipulate for Nigeria's political future from now on? These are the conversations we intend to have. Barrister Eze Eluche, good evening, and thank you for joining us on the Evening Rush.
Yeah, good evening, and thank you for the invite.
Good evening, Barrister Eze Eluche. First of all, former President Muhammadu Buhari has passed on, but a lot of Nigerians do not feel empathy towards that. They feel that his administration put Nigerians in a handcuff, and it was really bad. The Naira redesign policy that was crunching, people literally died. The NSAS protest, the insecurity that was pervading, nepotism that was witnessed, and you know that was the same period that Nnamdi Kanu was extraordinarily renditioned, where he also made remarks of the fact that the Southeast is a dot in the nation. A lot of incidences, that has to do with Buhari's administration. However, the big question now is what will happen to the CPC faction of the APC, whom former President Muhammadu Buhari was like the statesman, the person who was supposedly keeping them together. How do you think the political future of the CPC and the APC, or rather the AC and now the APC, would be now that Buhari has passed on?
Well, Buhari has passed on, and life has gone, and the reality is that we only hope that Nigerians, those in leadership position, will take this as an opportunity and understand that life is transient, and we will all leave this world one day and go.
Yeah.
Irrespective of the billions that is amassed, there is always the need to think of the hereafter and what will happen when one transits. In traditional African societies, when somebody has done so much evil and so much wrong, the person is not even buried in the Igbo land. The person is either thrown into the evil forest or even hung outside there. So somebody like Buhari, if you look at the amount of calamities he's caused to families, the danger, the wrongs he has wrought on the environment, his ultra-ethnic clannishness, his past, I mean, you wonder how Nigeria survived even this character. And one thing that we have to recognize in even his death in a British hospital is that here is a man who was opportune to rule over Nigeria for over over 9 years. Remember, he was a dictator for over 1 year, before 8 years as the president. And yet he could not erect a befitting or a world standard hospital in Nigeria. He had to go and die in a foreign hospital. I mean, I wonder how the British people look at this kind of characters. It's unfortunate he's dead, and we're not trying to glorify or make mockery of the dead, but hopefully the living, including the incumbents, will learn that we all have to live this life one day. And it is the prosperity. What will the future think about us? What will the future think about us? With regard to the question you asked about his CPC, I don't think that is even non-existent.
You think so?
All these so-called fractions, they exist because of what they can tap from a person. The moment Mr. Buhari was no longer there, they found other source of income. So there's nothing like CPC or whatever. They have found their levels and they have moved on.
You don't
So
believe
there
that
was no
others
principle.
are waiting? For example, there are talks that some persons intend to still join the ADC. They're waiting to see the party calibrate and have a firm hold before they decamp, especially those who are disgruntled, within the APC. But the thing here is, Barrister Eze Eluche, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had an agreement with these individuals, told them that for 8 years we will support you, we will support former President Muhammadu Buhari, and then afterwards I come in, Emi Lokon, it's my time, and you will also support me. But it's just 2 years after, 2 years into his first term as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and most of these persons who have had all that arrangement are already complaining. You have Babachir Lawal, you have Boss Mustafa. These were persons in the top echelon of the previous administration. They are beginning to express their discontent. Even Tambuwal and what's his name, Ali Undume, on several occasions. These are individuals who were very close, with Bola Ahmed Tinubu, formed the APC, supported Muhammadu Buhari, but now they're not happy with Tinubu. Left for them, especially for those who are still benefiting from the APC, if there is a strong opportunity of upstaging President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2027, they would actually back it up, especially if the person is a northern frontier. So why do you think it is so?
The reality is this, like I said, there is not only the parties in Nigeria for now like ideology. They are all there that are like a cabal to take over power or to take over the reins of governance. There is nothing like loyalty to anybody. I mean, the people you mentioned who are just jumping ship left, right, and center, they are out for their own individual egoistic selves and not for any system. I mean, the bottom line is this. The so-called CBC were there because they thought they could grab one or two things from Buhari. Now that Buhari is dead, it is to your thanks, O Israel. There is no faction, there is no whatever. They will find their means to survive. That is the unfortunate state we found politics in this country. Unfortunately, the man is dead. Muhammadu Buhari is dead. He faced his judgment with his God or whatever. But for Nigerians, the reality of his misrule, the reality of his decadent behavior, the reality of his extreme ethnocentrism, the reality that this was a man who killed Nigerians point blank when he came into office, that some parts of the country gave him 5% vote so he doesn't owe them a dime. A man who called over 60 million people of a particular race that they are a mere dot. I mean, we have to be realistic. It is high time we call a spade a spade. The man is dead, he's dead. Let him go and make himself up with his God. And he shouldn't bother Nigerians any further.
All right. So, Barrister Eze Eluche, on Friday, for presidential aspirant of the Labour Party, Mr. Peterobi, spoke during a rally at the All Saints Cathedral Field in Onitsha, Anambra State, where he organized to flag off the campaign of George Moghalu, Labour Party's governorship candidate in the state, and his running mate, Ifeoma Okaro. The former governor of Anambra State said he is part of the ADC coalition adopted by opposition leaders as the platform to challenge the APC in the 2027 election. So this is his quote. Let me put it categorically clear. I and the National Assembly members of the party are part of the coalition that has adopted ADC for the 2027 elections, and other parties will join us. But today, as it stands, we are members of the Labour Party. If anybody asks you, which party does Peterobi belong to today, tell them Peterobi is in the Labour Party. If anybody asks you about the coalition, tell them yes, the coalition is for 2027. Now, the Labour Party feels that that is anti-party. You cannot be a card-carrying member of the Labour Party and you're also being part of the ADC, even if he's not yet a card-carrying member of the ADC. Do you think this will be a problem for him?
Well, I mean, it is like a follow-up from my comments earlier, that
Yes.
there's nothing like ideology in any of the political parties. The same Labour Party is having its national chairman go to Hobnob and visit the major attack dog of the APC, Mr. Nyesom Wike. The same Labour Party that is daring to make noise about anti-party activity does not have party activities of its own. And the entire activities of the Labour Party till tomorrow is centered around the person of Peterobi. So what are they talking about? And the reality is this: Mr. Peterobi's comments regarding his membership of the Labour Party is strictly for the Labour Party in Anambra State for the purpose of the elections.
Yes.
Let nobody make any mistakes about it. It may not belong to the Labour Party in other states. So we should understand when politicians are making comments. Those comments by Peterobi was strictly towards the gubernatorial elections taking place in Anambra State in the next couple of days. Because I assure you, in a place like Imo State, where virtually all the members of the Labour Party who won their tickets to National Assembly have decamped to the APC,
Yeah.
Peterobi will not come and make such comments in Imo State. Because the Labour Party in Imo State is virtually dead. And he will not even dare come and say he's a member of the Labour Party in Imo State. So Nigerians should understand what these political parties are all about. It's a mechanism and a tool to acquire power. And that is what will be rightly pointed out. If there's a coalition they are working towards 2027, that stands. There's nothing attaching him or anybody to any party for now.
Now, Barrister Eze Eluche, the reason why a lot of people and Nigerians, specifically the youthful demography, are really interested in politics is because they feel that our leaders have disappointed us for so long, and that we have kept mute because we have not shown that interest in following up with the polity and asking questions, and that the leaders have taken advantage of the people where they decide to do whatever they like and nobody questions it. Now, I don't know if you heard about the local government elections that took place yesterday in Lagos State. Some polling units did not have other political parties. I tried to ask questions. Is it possible that other political parties did not have aspirants in those polling units, or maybe they didn't conduct primaries where last year was invited for a duly registered person in that polling unit and with that political party to be identified so that their names will be in the list? But okay, again, a couple of people feel it is deliberate. It's a way of disenfranchising certain persons and giving nobody any option but to vote in the APC. Others feel that non-indigents, or if you're not from the southwest, if you're not a Lagos indigent, anything concerning local government elections should not concern you. You leave the local government elections to the locals, and the only thing you can come out to do at the polls is the general elections. Can you explain that kind of reasoning to me, please, or to us?
Thank you very much. The nature of what we can in Nigeria is easily displayed, where every state, the party controlling the state government wins 100% of the seats at the local government level, whether it's chairmanship or councillorship, and this is irrespective of how terrible and abysmal that party has performed in their state. It's not a matter of APC in Lagos State. It's the same thing with the PDP government in, let's say, Cross River or wherever. So it's not before that.
Barrister Eze Eluche, the network is really poor. I would like to contact you again because I need to hear precisely what you're saying so we have a better comprehension from the perspective you're coming from in explaining these issues. I'm trying to reconnect with Barrister Eze Eluche. The network is poor and most of the things he was saying I couldn't possibly properly hear what he was saying. Barrister, can you hear me now? Thank you very much. The audio was okay.
Yes, what transpired in Lagos merely exposes the fraud shambolic nature of what we refer to as democracy in Nigeria. In the Lagos election, I'm sure the APC will clear all the seats. In fact, they celebrated their winning the chairmanship elections the moment they secured the APC primaries.
Yeah, all the local government polls were won by them.
Yes, but it's not just in Lagos APC. You won't only blame the APC for this in Lagos State.
Okay.
Because in other parts of the country where other parties control the governorship, the government house, they also win 100%. So it just shows that we are just fooling ourselves, saying we have a democracy. But then that's why Nigerians have to strategize on how to ensure that the similar rot does not display itself at the federal level. Because if it does that, then the country is doomed for another 4 years. But what we have in Lagos State, in all these states, as local government elections, is just absolute crap. It does not make any sense. You will see that clearly there is no governance, there is no dividend of democracy to the electorate. People are not even coming out to vote, and yet you have 100% return of all the seats for the ruling party that has not performed anything. If this continues, we should all realize that those who make peaceful change impossible make violent change inevitable. If we continue to tell the people that, look, despite whatever you think, the party that is ruling will continue to rule, it will get to a time when the public will snap. And usually when that snap occurs, it does not tell good for the society.
All right, Barrister Ezeluchi, the House of Representatives Committee on Constitution Review is considering a bill seeking to amend the Constitution to reform the mode of appointing the chairman of INEC by involving the National Judicial Council. Now, the proposed amendment aims to involve the NJC in the selection of the INEC chairman, thereby enhancing the independence, credibility, and transparency of the appointment process. The electoral reform is headed by the late Chief Justice of Nigeria, Muhammadu, who in 2007, you recall, recommended constitutional amendments that would insulate INEC from the political influences of the executive arm of government in terms of its composition and funding. The panel recommended that the power to appoint the INEC board be transferred from the president to the NJC, while its funding was to be a first-line charge on the consolidated revenue of the federation. Do you think if this method is adopted, that there will be a transparent mode of conducting general elections in this country?
Unfortunately, what the late Supreme Court Justice said about transferring the appointment of INEC board and chairman to the NJC, which is the Nigerian Judicial Commission, it doesn't do anything. This NJC itself that appoints the justices of the court, how far has the court fared? Are the courts any better? Are the judges appointed under the system any better? And you see, the problem with this country is that every new tenure of legislators will embark on a so-called constitutional amendment process. And this charade has been happening since the commencement of this republic, since the 1999 transition from military to civilian.
Okay.
Every 4 years, they take us around this circus, this charade of constitutional amendment. How can you amend a fundamental fraud? The Nigerian Constitution, which has as its preamble, as its very first word, we the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria having solemnly declared, make unto ourselves this constitution. It's a fraud because nobody sat anywhere and declared that we need this constitution. And that is why every time you keep on amending and re-amending and re-amending, and you are still where you are. Back to what the House of Reps is proposing. Okay, if you eliminate or remove the appointment of the INEC chairman from the president, have you removed the appointment of the Inspector General of Police and the service chiefs from the president? And it is these same security agencies that are used to cause confusion and the electoral malpractices in the election. So the issue is not cosmetic changes. It's not to change one or two parts of it and say you are doing electoral reform. It will not work because the fundamental, the basics of the constitution of the country is fraudulent. That is the constitution. The only way we can make progress in this country is to have a holistic review. This constitutional conference decide Do we want to make this country work? If we don't, what do we want? Do we want to split and not continually fool ourselves that we're making amendments upon amendments? Look at the kind of amendments we already have for the electoral laws. There should be the DFAS machines, automatic transmission of results, and all that stuff was in our laws. And what's happened at the last election, and all this the midterm elections that are taking place, each one gets worse than the previous ones. So the issue is not constitutional review or amendment of this, is to totally bring down this structure and say, do we want to rebuild? Do we want to stick together, and do we want a nation?
But there needs to be a process to bring down the structure. It's one step at a time, because that the structure, or will I say the corruption, has gotten so deep into the marrow of the system that to begin to uproot it, in fact, you're going to literally be causing chaos in the political landscape. So don't you think that this will be a step in the right? That is, if the Senate will respond as soon as possible, if they will approve of this, because as it stands right now, we have a Senate that doesn't say no to the presidency. They don't question anything on the presidency. INEC reforms have been on. INEC has submitted about 100 and something reforms. It's still sitting in the National Assembly. They haven't considered it as something of import to look into. Not to talk of stripping the appointment of INEC chair from the president. So, between now and 2026, do you think it's possible that this will be considered, knowing how things are in this part of the world, politically?
Now, no matter what you consider, ask yourself, like I said, for the past 5-6 election cycles, we have gone around talking about electoral reforms and constitutional reforms, and each one gets worse than the previous one. So if it needs to have that chaos, let us have it and solve these issues once and for all. Because all this rigmarolling does not help anybody. Is it the House headed by Abbas, that isn't Abbas, or the Senate headed by apathy, that will produce something that will be against or that will not be workable for Mr. Tinubu? Let us be serious, for goodness sake. These characters in office have already held the country by the jugular. So if it means whatever, let us follow them squarely and ensure that if we have to have any change, it must be holistic. It must be made up of the constituent peoples of Nigeria, and not this fraud of the constitution we keep on calling the Nigerian constitution, which is not a Nigerian document at all. The Nigerian constitution, let me remind people once more, is merely a shadow of a military decree number 24 of 1999, which was signed by one person, Abdul Salam Abubakar, the then head of state. So it is not a people's constitution. And no matter how much you re-amend and amend it, nothing good will come out of it. That is the reality.
All right, Barrister Ezelichi, thank you so much for your input. I sincerely do appreciate you. We'll get back to you when there are questions for you to respond to.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much. Mr. Lawal Ekundaya, thank you for being physically here in the studio.
Good evening.
Good evening. Mr. Lawal, former President Muhammadu Buhari has passed on, and there's a lot of talk as to what his administration was like. 2 years into this administration, some Nigerians were saying, "Oh, my bill, I say, Bubu's administration is better than, despite the fact that it was termed as the worst administration, specifically given a bad name for the All Progressives Congress." I mean, there was a lot of hope for Buhari to emerge in 2015. They saw him as a messiah, as a savior. He was being touted as a no-nonsense person because of he and Idiagbo during the military administration. It was zero tolerance for indiscipline. They felt he would replicate it now as a civilian president, that the fact that they will rout out, insecurity, Boko Haram will no longer be the order of the day. There'll be discipline, and he would not tolerate corruption. Unfortunately, being the fact that that was the core of his campaign, he seemed to have failed in all that regard. I mean, Nigeria experienced inflation. The borders were closed, although some persons said it was a means through which agriculture, that is, homeland food production, was encouraged. But still, a couple of items were coming in through the borders. Despite all of that, there was a couple of situations with the economy. Nigerians were not happy. Small businesses were literally trying to stay afloat. But when this 2 years of President Bola Tinubu's administration started, Nigerians were like, okay, it be like say the other one better. So now he has passed on. There are mixed feelings. Some persons feel that he was wicked. Some persons feel that his administration, he was not even aware of what was going on, that the aspect he was meant to concentrate on, he did not focus on it. They also accused him of being undemocratic with the extraordinary rendition of Nnamdi Kanu and how he came and how he was kept within the DSS custody despite several pleas and despite court judgments for him to be released on bail while his trial continues in whatever capacity. All of these are, questions that has marred his administration. How would you prefer to react to this?
Well, my reaction is that the case of Buhari's administration is like the case of somebody who started from zero and began to get -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, minus, that minus shows that it's getting worse. When you start from 1, 2, 3, it's getting better. But when you start from -1, -2, it's getting worse. That was how his administration, went. It was getting worse by the day, so that by the time the president's administration took over, it just continued from that and continued to worsen the whole thing. That is my take. That is my conclusion about his administration and his legacy. That's it. That was his legacy, because there's nothing so particular we can hold on to say that he did well. Now, you were talking about closing of border.
Okay.
When you said closing, I keep wondering why that is a good decision. It was never. I was totally against it from the beginning and to the end.
He felt that Nigerians depended a lot on imported produce to the extent that we were importing toothpaste.
But why didn't you block? You didn't block China. Because our major importation came from China. You could have blocked China. You didn't block China. You were blocking Benin. Do you understand what I'm saying? You didn't block China, because that is where the bulk of our importation was coming from. You could have blocked China to save our industry. You didn't block China, but you were blocking the border of Benin. Does that make any sense? It doesn't. Say if you are blocking border, there'll be a policy. There'll be
the border was to prevent the importation of, for example, sometimes rice, some certain brands of rice, which they don't even go through the normal customs. They felt like a lot of produce, even there were some produce that the government of the day felt shouldn't be imported, but that they were being imported. They needed to close the borders to encourage Nigerians to
You are going too far.
Okay.
Esther, you are going too far.
Explain,
I'm older than you. Let me explain to you by age. Do you remember when textile industry was booming in Nigeria?
Obviously.
How did it shut down? Between textile and rice importation, which one was really sustaining Nigeria? Was it not textile industry? Textile industry employed over close to 1 million Nigerians.
Okay.
Directly in this thing, and indirectly over millions of Nigerians depended on it. Now the whole thing crashed, and then importation of materials were majorly coming from China. You could not stop that one.
What made it to crash? What made the tax?
Because the cheap ones and inferior ones were coming from China. That was the major reason. The government didn't protect the local industry. That was the major reason. And what about the tires? We had the tire industry in Nigeria. We had Michelin. We had Dunlop producing in Nigeria and supplying West Africa. So how did it shut down? We have rubber plantation in Nigeria here. Some of them are still working. The plantations are still there. They are exporting it to out of Nigeria, where the tires are, where they are being converted to tire and returned back to Nigeria as a finished goods. You didn't work on that. You are talking rice is not even our staple food. We are eating rice based on the fact that we had no alternative. In those days, who eat rice? When I was small, who really eat rice? We only eat rice maybe once in a blue moon, like maybe on Sunday. The other, what we really eat is some yam. We eat amala. We eat eba. We drink gari. We eat beans. Our food was sustaining. So how did we get to this? You are talking as if rice was our staple food. Even when you are talking about rice, you didn't talk about the rice that was existing in Nigeria when I was small. We had your father rice, which was from Abakaliki, which was from the east, or your father from the west. No development was done on that. You are thinking of doing another one across to another area.
So I remember when Buhari did what he did, would you say he didn't encourage food production? For example, I remember Cross River governor then, was it Cross River, Ben Ayadi, former Cross River State Governor Ben Ayadi? I remember that, for example, he set up a rice farm from the state government. I think he and one northern states, they did a combination where to supplement, because rice became quite expensive since people couldn't import rice, and it encouraged local farming. They gave out farmlands to a lot of persons who wanted to farm for the state government, and we're seeing, Nigerian rice, Rivers rice, Akwa Ibom rice, those circulated the market at the time. Unfortunately, after a while, we did that method stopped. I don't know what happened, but a couple of persons felt that the agricultural sector seemed to have a glimmer of sunlight for a sector that had gone moribund and really dependent on importation. I mean, how do you describe that?
Let me say something.
Okay.
Why is Taiwan or India that we are importing? Why are they not planting yam? Why did they not convert their land that is good for planting rice? Why did they not convert it to yam? Okay. Our land is good for our food here. We are converting to the food that is coming from another country, from Asia. Why are we focusing on the food that they are producing in their land? Why are we not focusing on the one that we are already used to that can grow on our own land? You can say something is wrong with Nigeria and the Nigerian government and Nigerian system. You have yam. In those days, even up to now, people prefer pounded yam. And it's staple to us. What happened? That the government is not focusing on developing the one we already have that is established in Nigeria, such as yam, such as cassava, such as potato, such as beans. Why are you focusing on the food that they are producing in another person's land? You can't compete with them. Do you know why? Because as long as that thing is staple to their land, they will always do better than you. Now I'm coming. Yes, sir. Wait, let me tell you some 30 seconds. 30 seconds. When the whites were here, they encouraged massive production of palm oil. Do you know that palm oil was exported? It was one of our major export across to the world. Now, do you know what happened? They took that same after independence, so they took that same palm oil seed. They took it to Indonesia. From Nigeria, they took it to Indonesia and planted it in Indonesia. Now, do you believe that Indonesia is exporting palm oil product to Nigeria? You'll be wondering what is wrong with us now. Why is the government not developing that palm oil? It's our stable agriculture. All right. Now that is shut down, and Indonesia from another country that took it from Nigeria is now doing far better than us, and we are importing from Indonesia. So why are we focusing on rice? You keep saying rice as if rice used to be our staple food.
We're not quarreling now.
I'm not quarreling with you.
This was the target of the Buhari administration.
Why? That's the question.
He has passed on, and I was trying to say, okay, these were some of his policies at the time that we saw that were viable. We saw them.
It wasn't viable.
What I mean viable was implemented, which was physically implemented. A lot of persons, investors, I remember that when Buhari said they wanted to shift from investing in oil or having to rely so much on crude oil, they wanted to divest the economy, go back to the alternative, which was agriculture. A lot of the investors who did not know how his administration was going to pander, especially during the first 4 years, actually invested in agriculture. We saw persons buying farmlands all the way from at Ibadan, Ogun states for farming like yam. They went into poultry,
even
fishery.
Benue. You talk about Benue.
So that aspect actually encouraged an angle of investment. So a lot of persons actually, the agricultural market became something to look into because the government of the day seemed to prefer that as an alternative to relying on oil. Well, I would like us to actually take calls at this moment, but do you think that with his passing away, that you'll see a lot of persons leave the APC and join the ADC? Because Buhari seems to be like a Peterobi of the CPC, as President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is of the ACN. So now that it feels like they're not there, what do you think is going to happen?
Normally, APC is like how do I describe it? When you just jam pack so many things, you just jam pack things here. You get it. At a point, this thing will now start. Because no ideology hold them down. They don't really have any ideology. They don't have a philosophy. So they were just jam packed together. Just get rid of Jonathan, and then they always look at one person or two persons. Why we call them Godfather? That's you get it. But the moment the Godfather is shut down, they disperse. And begin to look for another where they will reconnect, and that's what is going to happen.
Do you think that the INEC chair, that particular policy, I just told you, House of Rep Committee on Constitution Review, they want to strip the powers of appointing an INEC chair from the president, meaning that possibly the next INEC chairman, who is to emerge by November or December 2025, may not be appointed by the president. Do you think it will be expedited? A situation where the National Judicial Committee or Council will be the body responsible for appointing INEC chair, because they feel that ever since a president is responsible for appointing an INEC chair, that they are usually being induced, and the conduct of elections are looked within the prism of preference to the incumbent, because of the fact that the executive has a direct hand in nominating who becomes the INEC chair.
The question we'll ask is that judiciary you want to add into over to, is it competent? Is it free and fair? Are you telling me that our judiciary is free and fair? Can you go to court now and be sure that you are going to get justice? So you now want to hand it over. So is it not moving from fry pan to fire? If they will say, I would have said that it could be issues supposed to be an institution. You get in that institution, somebody will graduate to that level and become the INEC chairman. That's when they can be truly free. Or you form a committee that will consist of all the political parties' representatives and the judiciary and some reps, and maybe some people from the executive. All of them will form that committee, and from that committee they will now elect the chairman to become and then I can say that it's free because everybody is involved. From there you do coalition, you do consultation, you do that to be able to see who is competent to be there. And that time it will be almost totally free from the influence of anybody, whether judiciary, whether the reps or the executive. But if you hand it over to the judiciary, or you are just simply moving, as some people will say, they will say, you are moving it from the fry pan to fire.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for us to actually take your calls. The number to call is 080-3692-9933, 080-3692-9933, and the WhatsApp number is 0817-1756-338, 0817-1756-338. That's the WhatsApp number. Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Political Spotlight. How are you?
Thank you very much, Mrs. Esther.
Welcome, sir. What's your name, sir?
Thank you. All right. Okay. My name is Madam Bello Usman. I am calling currently from Idimo.
All right, Malam Bello, please go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. May the soul of former President Muhammadu Buhari rest in peace. And the death of former President Muhammadu Buhari, to be honest with you, APC is dead. APC is collapsed. APC completely dead. Come 2027, the only state you can see APC exist in Nigeria as I speak with you would be only Lagos. And the election took place yesterday. I witnessed something that in my life, I am 47 years of age now. In my life, I have never seen this kind of a thing before. Where I witnessed with the election yesterday, I saw where one people are talking about youth.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I discovered that youth of this country are the biggest problem, even than old. The two INEC staff, the presiding officer, and the two agents, the one Labour agent, one Labour Party agent, and one PDP party agent, they are all youth. When the president that was contested for councillor came, he called the two agents, PDP and Labour, into his vehicle. At the end of the day, when they came out, they both agree. I don't know how it was transpired between them. At the end of the day, the presiding officer went and brought plenty printing of paper and put it inside the chairmanship of the APC. Wow. The policeman there, he was the only person posted to that place. He said, no, this can never take place. This is not the reason why he was there. They are begging, and he was the only person. The Labour Party agents and PDP agents collected 50,000 from this these people and allowed those people to do nothing. They didn't even say anything. The two INEC staff, they are also huge. So I've never seen this kind of thing before. And the current president, no president of Nigeria since 1999 have taken Nigeria for granted like this president. And by the grace of God, he is doing all this, believing that maybe the power of who become president come 2027. Maybe he believes that it's in his hand, but it's in the power of who become president 2027 is not in his hand. It's in our hand. And by the grace of God, come 2027, we will let him know that the power of who become president of Nigeria is not in the hands of president and his friends or community of friends that the president is a president of friends who is ready to come and eat. By the grace of God, we show all of them well. Thank you very much and God bless you.
Wow, thank you for calling. Wow.
I thought you were going to ask him for that area. What did happen?
Wow.
I wish you would tell us that area.
Hello.
No, Esther, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Happy Sunday. Is this Ben? Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I'm asking if it
sir.
is Ben. He did not answer. Okay, go ahead.
Ben from Eva.
All right, please, Ben. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, Usman spoke well. God will bless that man.
Yes.
I believe that Nigerians, you hear him and let us take correction. And Peterobi should not deputy Atiku. You understand? Atiku doesn't have good antecedents. We have tried him in this country, he failed. Atiku is still Atiku who he is. When he was custom controller general, he performed woefully with wickedness and definite corruption, everything. All the property, federal government property sold when he was vice president. Where is the money? The one he sold to himself. Auction price. So let us not be talking about that. There has never been any democratically elected president in Nigeria that handed over to their vice. If Atiku, this deputy Atiku, people say grab power. Is it a grab power? If this deputy Atiku perform woefully, Atiku doesn't take advice from anybody. He doesn't succumb under pressure. He doesn't fear anybody at all. If Atiku perform woefully, Obi is gone. If Atiku decide not to hand over to Obinko, did the Shagari hand over to Ekweme? Is it not because of Ekweme to take over that they planned that coup, Buhari and Ijabo, and took over government? Did Obasanjo hand over to Atiku? Why Jonathan took over was because Yaradua was dead. Did Buhari hand over to Simbajo? Simbajo was very loyal to Buhari. Very loyal. Very, very honest and loyal. Served him as a humble servant. Did Buhari hand over to him? He chose Ahmad Lawan before he fighted. The APC Northern governors went and begged him, and he changed his mind and chose Tinubu.
But it's not about changing his mind now, Ben. You know there was an agreement that after Buhari to be Tinubu, for Yemi Osinbajo, it was Tinubu that suggested Yemi Osinbajo to Buhari as vice because Tinubu said Buhari approached him and wanted him to be the vice, and he said no.
This thing is very simple. Why did Osinbajo contest against Tinubu? Why did he contest under APC presidential ticket?
In 2023.
In that primary, why was Osinbajo? He contested. Amachi can say Osinbajo contest. Why did he contest? Osinbajo was thinking that when Buhari was voting that he don't want to reveal his candidate, that when he reveals his candidate, they will kill him. Osinbajo was thinking that he was the one that they would anoint. So people should know Obi have good antecedents. There's no leader in Nigeria like Obi. Obi have followers in the north everywhere. So who is saying that he cannot win an election at Atiku? Which election is Atiku winning? But yes, Obi won last election with a landmark. He won it very well. Look at all the time Atiku has been contesting. How many votes was Atiku getting? All the platforms Tinubu gave to him. But Atiku has been contesting under good structures, well-established structures, Tinubu structures and PDP structures. Did he win an election? And look at Obi out of nowhere without any councillor. You look at millions of votes. You can look at all those ones that you call blood results. They pack. That doesn't have the name of anybody at all. And yet, the Obi got all the ones he got. Look at the Port Harcourt where they carry his 1.3 million votes and gave it to Tinubu. What are we talking about? To give not Atiku. What if Atiku implementing Northern three agendas we are afraid of? You know the agenda we are afraid of. What if Atiku? All these people that are gathering together to grab for, if they enforce that agenda, what will we do as Nigeria? We'll be regretting missing Tinubu crying again. If Nigerians want to vote as people, let them vote him. But the power must come to the south and to southeast. Nobody can stop it. I'm telling you the truth.
All
Come
right.
2027, Obi will be the president of this country.
All right, Ben from Iba. Mr. Lawaya Kunda, you know the fears of a lot of Nigerians. They feel that, okay, if you say Peterobi won the elections in 2023 without governors, without the political elites backing him and all, that 2023 is not 2027. Some persons in the obedient movement has left. Some strategies have happened that they have created some kind of, like I told you, they've infused ethnicity into the whole thing. Some people feel that yes, Peterobi has gotten more, but he needs somebody who is rugged, somebody who understands how they do stuff there amongst themselves to defeat a Tinubu who is an incumbent. It's not easy to defeat an incumbent, and that he can't do it alone. So right now, Dan Obwala is saying that Peterobi is lobbying to be a vice. That's what he's claiming at this moment. In fact, a vice to Rotimi Amechi. That's what Daniel Bwala is claiming. But a couple of people see it as a distraction, just to create a sense of dilute whatever it is the coalition is all about.
See, that is where Dan Buhala, whatever you call his name, whatever he says is irrelevant.
Okay.
Hello?
Hello, good evening.
Yeah, good evening, sisters.
Please turn down the volume of your radio, yes.
Yeah, I've done that.
Okay. What's your name, please?
Yeah, I'm Mr. Peter Nwiji. I'm calling from Satellite Town.
All right, Mr. Peter. Go ahead.
Yeah, I
Mr.
just want
Peter,
to
I can still hear my voice at the
with
background.
Mr. Lawa.
Sir? Good
Yeah,
evening, sir.
I have the idea that you just brought out. The only way, I'm going the way of INEC chairman. The only way we can do it is to just conduct a vote, not even a president bringing out anybody to become the INEC chairman. Just as you said it, that is the only way it can work. If not, every other thing we are doing there is going to be like the same thing. And also, I'm also suggesting that P2B should not be vice to anybody because just as you said, nobody, Mr. Ben said from IBA, no president has handed over to the vice. There is no vice that has become president except Jonathan just because the boss died and there is nothing they can do. That is the only president. He was so fortunate. If not, every other one of them are selfish. And when it comes to the turn of the Southeast, if they are vice president, if he comes to their own, they will bring one policy that will knock him out and he cannot be able to be there again. And that has been happening. And Nigerians have been losing credible people to lead them just because of ethnicity and religion. And that will not do well in Nigeria. That's my stake.
Thank you so much for calling. Okay. Good evening, Esther. For this rubber stamp Senate is the worst in history. They only think about their money, luxurious lifestyle, their eye service and hypocrisy for this government. You haven't passed electoral reforms. You haven't passed bill of execution of any corrupt people in power. They didn't pass state police bill. They didn't remove your president for this lack of capacity, incompetence, visionless and wasteful looting of a national cake, where they have turned the people to beggars and are marginal in the midst of plenty due to their obnoxious policies. The nation to a gangster paradise, and now their focus is on intimidating Natasha not to come back. Also remember, they said on his mandate they shall stand. Birds of the same feathers flock together. It's a shame the worst of us is ruling the best of us. Truly there was a country, a day from Lagos. This is a lesson to politicians in power. No one will stay on earth forever. When you are in a position, lead people well, stop abusing power, make people happy. When you leave this earth, only your legacy will speak. Michael Ekbo from Idimo. All right, this person says, good evening, Esther and others. Many a times it looks like Nigeria is a problem of herself. When you become the problem of yourself, it takes God's intervention before your liberation can come. How can you have something better and you're looking just for anything? I mean, just any person, either Jagudas. It's a shame. Please, can you mention one hospital Peterobi built for 8 years? Emmanuel. All right, okay. Hello, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, Esther.
Good evening, Ma. How are you, Ma?
Fine, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Gundayo.
Good evening, Ma.
God bless you, sir. Madam, please from Barua Ipaja.
Okay.
Go ahead, Ma.
You're welcome.
Okay. What we are saying is that if Obi deputy Atiku will not leave because of the mindset what Atiku gets. He will not step down after 4 years. He wants to complete 8 years. He will use it for opportunity. Has been losing this election to complete 8 years. So I don't like Obi deputy. No matter what, God will be on Obi's side. We will support him. Everybody will team up and support him. What a change of government. Atiku is so desperate. So it's like being Mileko in the turn of Atiku too. He will not offer us anything good. So let him rest and surrender and leave everything to Nigerians to continue. Coalition, Lagos State Nation, they did yesterday. They were intimidating people. According to the report I was hearing from the radio, people were, even when they were in campaign, some areas, when other Labour Party and other parties were going out to do their own campaign, the APC will chase them out. They will, so everybody run there. They don't want anybody to wound them. Because after wounding or kill anybody, nobody will stand for them. Nobody will kill them for that, and they will suffer it alone. So everybody enter their house. It's not good what they are doing. They should leave everybody to, as long as you are here, you're contributing to the growth of the state. Everybody has a free will to choose who they want to choose. I don't like the way they are dominating what party is dominating everywhere. So that's my take.
All right, thank you. Thank you for calling, all right? The passing of former President Muhammadu Buhari serves as a poignant reminder to politicians. It underscores the importance of prioritizing citizens' needs, upholding fairness, and ensuring justice for all. Desperate and self-centered politicians would do well to remember that their time will come, and thus their actions should be guided by the greater good, not personal ambition. This is from Aberdeen. Good evening, VOP. Mr. Ekundayo, analysis is excellent and correct. And let us see whether Nigeria come to what we are looking for. Thanks, VOP. Frank from Ayobo. All right, good evening, VOP. All I can say is rest in peace to PMB. As a president, he did his best during his 8 years, but the best wasn't enough. Well, we can't flog a dead. Esther Wachiko, I greet you and your guest fantastically. Esther, my polling unit is just 2 buildings away from my house, number 8, while my house is number 4, but I didn't leave my house. I intentionally didn't want to vote because I know that it's a waste of time. I wish I could move around as a pressman to cover the election. Do you know that in some local government areas there is only APC in the ballot? Someone was complaining on Facebook in a video he did after voting that people want things to change in Nigeria, but nobody came out to vote. He said it was only APC that was printed in the ballot paper in his local government area, and he had to vote them like that. Esther, do you also know that in my polling unit they eventually came to our house yesterday asking us to come out and vote and promised to give people money? I later went out to see what's happening and then came back without voting. Eventually they gave everyone 1k each, including my immediate elder brother. His voter's card is damaged. He was counted and also got 1k. One other young boy showed me the 500 naira they gave them in their own polling unit. I had to tell him to manage it wisely for the next 4 years. I'm talking about 500 naira. Local government election in Nigeria is just to fulfill all righteousness. Rest in peace to former President Buhari. James Ogbonna from Oshodi. Palm seeds were taken to Malaysia to plant and not Indonesia. Point of correction.
Okay, Malaysia. Okay.
Malaysia. Okay. Good evening, Aya from Mission. The person that speaks against Atiku right now about corruption, if you're called to come and prove it, do you have evidence? Ayo from Mushi. Esther, good evening. I'm Mr. Lawal. The country is Malaysia, not Indonesia. Engineer Ken from Ikpaja. Thank you so much. You see why I told you guys
thank
we're
you. I miss
ourselves.
up. I know, but I
we're
miss it.
educating ourselves.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Hello, good evening. How are you?
Good evening, Esther, and good evening, Kundayo.
Good evening, sir.
God will bless you with all your good work, Mr. Kundayo.
Thank you, sir.
You too. I'm Edward calling from Sango.
All right, Mr. Edward, please go ahead.
I want to draw Nigerians backward to 2019. This Atiku, he contested before when Obi is his vice, and by the version of that election, they won that election. But because Buhari is an Hausa man, and there's nothing they can do on it. All these people saying Atiku. Don't you know that if really they have the muzzle as at that time, he will still succeed to return that election. Now, let him allow Obi, because I have seen Obi's manifesto. I have seen Obi's 100 days in office, what he can do. Let us try the vibrant ability of Obi now. Because I'm seeing something inside this Atiku. Atiku is very greedy. If we allow Atiku now, many people will be talking to leave Atiku. By the time they give Atiku 4 years, Atiku would like to take 8 years, and it will spoil Obi's political career completely. So, and he knows very well that this turn unconstitutionally is South that we take. He should allow Obi to finish 4 years. By virtue of God existence, he will still live to take the remaining leadership in the North there. So if Obi did not carry Obi along with that plan, let Obi move away from that coalition. Let all of us suffer it. So then secondly, coming to this Buhari's term of leadership. You see, there's a lot of propaganda. This propaganda APC started now. When Kundayo say -1, -2, -3, and the Tinubu said he will continue from where Buhari's failure stop.
Yeah.
And that failure is what we are seeing now.
He didn't say Buhari's failure.
This minus, if he reach -6 or 8 as at that time, then Tinubu on will be controlling -9, 10, and 11.
Child.
So all this suffering, we are suffering. We are in the hands of Nigeria. Let Nigeria rise up to do the necessary thing. And lastly, this ANEC, the judiciary should not nominate ANEC for us. We, the masses of Nigeria, will use our own money to bring, even from US, who will conduct our election. Enough of this nonsense. We cannot take it any longer. Please.
All right,
Thank you.
Good evening, Esther, Barrister Esther Elijah, Mr. Ekundai, Solomon Asika from Mushin. President Buhari's death hoax has been one too many. I believe he's finally gone now, and let God be his judge for what he has done to Nigerians. Closing neighboring borders but giving visa on arrival to Fulanis over to come to Nigeria. I hope the incumbent is watching, that God is not man. Good evening to you, Esther. Peterobi represents credibility, fairness, justice, and equity in Nigeria's politics. If Peterobi becomes Atiku's VP and the administration fails, Nigerians, can Peterobi represent these qualities? God bless Mr. Ekundaya. Correct from Bariga. Esther, please, Nigeria should stop deceiving us. Buhari has died long ago, Joe. Oh, good evening. You're part of the people that believe that he's a clone. Good evening, Esther. Good evening, VIP. My name is Pastor Richard Chidi from Ikotu. As for the Buhari, which they have finally announced that rest in peace for him. As for Labour Party, without Peter Obi, the party will die. As for Peter Obi, he should remain focused and prepared to see himself in Asa Rock in 2027. Good night, all. Good evening. How are you? Hello.
Hello.
Good evening. How are you? What's your name?
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Well
Yes,
done.
sir. Thank you. What's your name,
Yeah,
sir?
my name is Mr. Yeah, my name is Mr. Amade calling from Ejibo. You see, all these things we are saying, if our leaders can learn through the date of Buhari now, at least we will move forward, because nothing is on this earth that cannot end.
Okay.
You understand what I mean? Look at the way Mr. Buhari just passed on. Is there anything that Buhari will make Nigeria to remember him? Is it for good or for bad? Time is coming. Time is coming. All these things will come to pass. Look at the local government election they did yesterday. It was nothing to write about. And this election, the local government election, if any country take this local government for granted, the country is finished. Nigeria is finished. If you watch the local government that happened yesterday in Lagos, you know that Nigeria is finished. Because this is the grassroots. This is the beginning. This is the government that is near people, that people can go to and complain for one thing and another. But everything is just like that. The day they did the primary election in this APC is the day they choose the people that will rule them here. So what are we saying? That all this is, let me warn Darlington that they're campaigning for Atiku.
It's warning personality. Good evening, all. I wish Atiku could be president for just 1 week. Let me see what he will do with Wike. Anyway, Tinubu will use the term "it's the turn of the South" to defeat him, and Atiku will be more on a revenge mission than governance. From Chief Udo. All right, let me take some of your comments on YouTube. James Manu says Buhari dies in London hospital since 2017. Ifeanyi Chukwu says free Mazen Nnamdi Kanu. Abidin says may Allah forgive his shortcomings. Adadiche says well. Sharers deceiving themselves. Okay. Afe James says Wike is a nest unless he changes for you for the evil that he's doing. JPay, I like this idea, Mr. Lawal. Very good ideas. Also, being one until Tinubu wins again, you callers run from Nigeria, sit there and be talking about Atiku. Okay. Luke stands with Biafra. Queen Estic Media, well done. God bless you always. Thank you, Luke. Stands with Biafra. I appreciate. Atiku now has better chance of winning. Cynthia O, how many hospitals did Tinubu build in Lagos? Okay, that's all we can take now, Mr. Lawal Kundari. In just a minute, can you kindly wrap up for us?
Yes,
please?
what I just want. And first, I thank people who corrected me. I was rushing.
That's what we do.
Thank you very much.
What we do
I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
Then second, you see that it's getting, if Nigerians do not take, the opportunity to fix their destiny in this country, it will not get better if you don't take action. So look at what happened now. Almost everybody is complaining about the election. That means it wasn't like this before. It's worse. Now it's going to get worse than this if you don't take action. If you don't take action, be part of politics, get involved, get enlightened, vote, take your action, be part of it. Exactly. Because your future is, and the future of your generation is at stake.
Mr. Lawal Kundara, thank you so much. Barrister Esther Eluche, thank you so much for being part of the conversation this evening. My name is Esther Machiku. Subscribe to Estic Media on YouTube, ESTIQMEDIA. Have yourself an amazing evening. Bye for now.